On today's show, we've got a full game day preview. The Ottawa Senators begin their father's trip on the road against the Buffalo Sabres.
And will Dylan Cozens continue his hot streak up against his former team for the first time?
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. Down in the desert, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Go download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Today is Tuesday, March 25th, and Pilsy, this one's a big one. The Senators are 0-2 this season against the Buffalo Sabres, who are last place in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I want this one pretty badly, Ross. I'm not going to call it a must win, but this is one, I said it in yesterday's episode, you got to take care of business here. And especially, Ross, like if it was the kind of season series so far where the Sabres get a 3-1 win and then maybe squeak one in overtime or shootout, you don't love that, but you can live with it. You're right there. The Sabres have outscored the Ottawa Senators 9-1 in their two matchups this year, a 5-1 loss and a 4-0 loss. We got to figure that out. This team needs to just take care of business. They're in a playoff spot. The Buffalo Sabres are dead last in the Eastern Conference. Let's figure this out and have a big points night for some of the top dogs.
Yeah, we'll get to the lineups in just a minute, but for the Ottawa Senators, they should not be focusing on what's across the ice. It's all about what they've been building here in March. One of the best teams in the National Hockey League in March. They had the stumble, but to be fair, that stumble was against two of the other hottest teams in the league in March, the Montreal Canadiens and the Colorado Avalanche. Since March 1st, when we were boots on the ground, the Sens are 8-2-1 with a +6 goal differential. Power plays clicking, and the PK needs work. Travis Green mentioning just some mistakes from guys who haven't penalty killed a whole lot in their career, notably Ridley Gregg, Shane Pinto, and I think Matthew Highmore was the other name that he singled out as guys where they're still trying to figure out the ins and outs. Now, it was still a power kill, Pilsy, against New Jersey. They had a breakaway shorthanded, Claude Giroux. They had a 2-on-1 shorthanded, Ridley Gregg to Shane Pinto. It's the in-zone defending on the PK that needs some work, and we'll see if they can fix that, because say what you want about Buffalo and the dysfunction and how they're dead last. You want to see some palm trees, Buffalo? I got some palm trees for you back there. But jokes aside, they still have guys that could burn you in Tage Thompson, Rasmus Dahlin, and JJ Peterka.
But their power play hasn't been that successful, Ross. It's 26th in the league, sitting at 18%. So they have the offensive talent, a lot of young offensive talent, and then a couple of vets. You're looking at Alex Tuck and Jason Zucker, but they haven't quite figured out how to click and make things work.
I'm excited for my locked on player, so I want to get right to the lines for tonight's game. The Ottawa Senators, we expect, will go with the same lineup they have been, except we might have the return of Nick Jensen. For my mental health, I put him in the lineup card. We'll start up top, though, with Tim Stützle between Brady Tkachuk and Fabian Zetterlund. The second line, Dylan Cozens with David Perron and Drake Batherson. Then you're looking at a line of Shane Pinto between Ridley Gregg and Claude Giroux. The fourth line is Adam Gaudette with Matthew Highmore and Michael Amadio. On the back end, Jake Sanderson with Artem Zub, Thomas Chabot with Nick Jensen, and Tyler Klevin with Nicholas Matinpalo. We are unsure who's starting in goal. It would be a revenge game for Linus Ullmark against the team that drafted him. Or could we see Anton Forsberg at some time this week? Pilsy, your locked-on player to watch.
I'd like it to be Linus Ullmark in tonight's game, Ross, just for the record. My locked-on player to watch, it's going to be number 57, David Perron. He has really found a new stride in this month of March. Since March 1st, San Jose game, in 11 games, he's got 5 goals, 3 assists, 8 points in 11 games. 2 of his goals are game winners. Only 11 shots in 11 games, but the stat I want to highlight here, is he's got a 45.5% shooting success rate right now. Now, obviously, that's not sustainable, but it just goes to show how hot this guy has been ever since Dylan Cozens has come over. Even before that, playing with Drake Batherson on that second line, he's really found his game, and I've been loving seeing it because that top six needed someone to come in there, and David Perron, a vet, is finding his game at the right time here. So I'm going to be locked on to number 57, David Perron.
That line as a whole, since being put together, has just been awesome for the Ottawa Senators. So I'm just excited to see, how they can continue cooking. We got the picture there of David Perron. Just wow. You'll love to see the physicality from him too. He mentioned it recently. Like, it's not only about catching his stride, which he has done, but it's also like this time of year is where it's more of a grinded out down low. It's the soft skill kind of gets hidden a little bit more at this time of year, and it's about who wants it more. And David Perron certainly does down low. I love the way he controls puck possession. When they've been on the ice now for 68 minutes total, Pillsy, they've scored 6 goals and allowed 3. So they're up 6-3 basically in the equivalent of a game and a full overtime, a little bit more. So I love the offense that line's been able to produce, and hopefully they can continue that tonight against the Buffalo Sabres. My locked on player to watch is going to be Jake Sanderson. Now, this is one of the lone games of the season where you look across and you're like, man, is Jake Sanderson the best defenseman in this game? We'll get to Rasmus Dahlin, who is outrageously talented, but Jake Sanderson, every bit as good as anybody. I put him against any defenseman in the league. And since January 25th, which will infamously go down as the day Tim Stützle got the buzz cut, during that stretch, Jake Sanderson has been every bit as good. 21 games, 5 goals, 18 assists. That's 23 points in 21 games. Only Cale Makar has more points over that span. He's got 38 blocks in those 21 games, 53 shots on goal, and he's playing over 24 minutes per night. This guy's the straw that stirs the drink on the back end for the Ottawa Senators, and I fully expect that if the Senators win tonight, that Jake Sanderson will play a large part in doing so.
Yeah, he's just been an absolute stud, and this is a good locked-on player for tonight's game, Ross, because you look across the ice, and you've got 2 first overall picks on the back end in Dahlin and Owen Power, and Jake Sanderson as a 5th overall. He looks pretty good out there. So I like this one from you. And Jake Sanderson, whenever he is playing on his game, you can tell that the team is just clicking more. He's transitioning the puck up the ice. He's making plays defensively. Like, this guy is so huge, and I'm glad that he's kind of figured things out after a bit of a rough start, at least up to his standards to the start of the season.
I've got a good debate, Pillsy. So we know that Jake Sanderson was a late birthday for the 2020 draft. He's born in July. You look across at Owen Power, who's a November birthday, so he's only 3 months younger. Wait, August, September, October, 4 months younger than Jake Sanderson. If Sanderson was a 2021 pick, who would go first overall in a redraft? Taking away, I don't know who went just behind him. Maybe you can make a case for someone else. But between Owen Power and Jake Sanderson, who would you rather on your franchise? Not right now necessarily, but now and long term.
Yeah, I mean, knowing what we know now, I think Sanderson would be the guy. But like we talked about, Ross, when Sanderson was coming up in that draft, there was a lot of people that were not so high on him and kind of thought other people had overrated him. You and I were always on the Jake Sanderson trade. We loved him since day one, and we still love him. I even think, Ross, there was a time, I think it was a postcast up against the Sabres, where you posed the question, Power or Sanderson, and I was like, I don't know if I can argue against a number 1 first overall defenseman in Owen Power. So I think I might have sided with Power at that time, but now the choice is very clear and very easy for me to say. Jake Sanderson is a guy I want on my team all day, every day. Like, there's not many defensemen in the league I would pick over Jake Sanderson. Honestly, I could probably count them on one hand, maybe 2 hands tops, but I mean, I can't count much more than that anyways. Got to start using my toes, but Jake Sanderson is an elite defenseman, and Ottawa Senators fans have been very fortunate to get to watch what this guy does every night.
It's exceptional to see. So I'll be locked on to Jake Sanderson tonight. Let's quickly go through the Buffalo Sabres lines for tonight's game. They are on the ice for the morning skate right now, so the goalies are flipped. We know James Reimer will start in goal for the Ottawa Senators. The last time he faced the Sens, Tim Stützle took a home run swing right past him with 2 seconds left in overtime in Sweden. Up front, Tage Thompson's the top line center between Zach Benson and Alex Tuck. They've got Ryan McLeod between JJ Peterka and Jack Quinn. Yuri Kulich between Jason Zucker and Isaac Rosean. And the fourth line, Peyton Krebs with Beck Malenstein and Tyler Kozak. Not Tyler Bozak, Tyler Kozak. On the back end, Matthias Samuelsson with Rasmus Dahlin. Owen Power with Jacob Bernard Docker. And Connor Clifton with Bowen Byram. Pilsy, this is a team that has played spoiler recently. They are coming off a 3-game road trip. They lost the first 2, but then they beat the Winnipeg Jets. Now, they were outshot heavily. James Reimer was fantastic in that game, making 33 saves. They were outshot 36-17, but they got a 5-3 win. They also beat Vegas last week. They beat Edmonton last week. They're losing more than they're winning, but they're beating some good teams. So who are you looking out for tonight?
Well, just first, quick correction, Ross. I thought it was Tyler Kozak as well, but just for his sake, it's Tyson Kozak.
Oh, sorry. That's such a popular name in Manitoba. Hey, good for Tyson Kozak. Manitoba kid just scored his first NHL goal in Winnipeg over the weekend.
Yeah, I'd figure you want to give the Manitoba kid the proper respect there. I'm going to be looking out for number 22, Jack Quinn. I mean, this
Ottawa boy.
Ottawa 67th player. People in the area will know him well. This is a kid, Ross, that when he was coming up in his draft year, both of us were very excited about his potential. In fact, I believe, Ross, correct me if I'm wrong, but we selected him in the Locked On mock draft as the Senators' choice, 5th overall? Yeah. Because this guy Craig Button told us he had the best shot in the entire draft, and he went 8th overall to the Buffalo Sabres. He scored 52 goals in his final season in the OHL with the Ottawa 67s, but things have not really been working out for him, probably at least not as much as he would have hoped in Buffalo. This season, 61 games, 10 goals, 16 assists, a -22, and he was recently a healthy scratch. Lindy Ruff benched him rather, because he was late to some sort of team meeting or function or something. He just wasn't on time. So Lindy Ruff had him take a seat. And I'm always interested when players get disciplined like that, Ross, to see what kind of reaction they're going to have and how they're going to respond to that. Because Jack Quinn is a guy that needs to respond and he needs to play better. In the last 13 games, he has no goals. In his last 13 games, 5 assists, only 15 shots. This guy's a shooter, and he's not finding success. He hasn't scored a goal since February 22nd. So it's been a while for him. So I'm going to be looking out for him to be really ripping the puck and try to turn things around here.
I like that call. We know that they've got the talented players in Tage Thompson, Rasmus Dahlin, JJ Peterka, as I mentioned. So I'm not going to go with them. I'm going to go with Ryan McLeod, a guy who we were interested in bringing to Ottawa. And we know there's a connection there. He's dating Michael Andlauer's daughter, so maybe a future son-in-law there for the Sens owner. But Ryan McLeod is looking awesome as a Buffalo Sabre. He's already demolished his career high in points. He set last year in Edmonton. He had 30. He's already got 42 in Pilsy. He had 4 points on Sunday in Winnipeg, a goal and 3 assists. So he's a player we know brings a lot of speed to the lineup. He's a great penalty killer. People were clowning on that trade. Matthew Savoy, a highly touted prospect who maybe didn't take that big step in his draft plus 2 year, but Ryan McLeod's been a great fit and now is playing as a second line center because Josh Norris is hurt and Josh Norris will not play tonight. So it will just be a revenge game for Jacob Bernard Docker, but Ryan McLeod will be my lookout player to watch tonight. We've got plenty more on this game, including what Dylan Cozens has done with the Ottawa Senators as he goes back to his old stomping grounds. And of course, we'll take a look at the wild card race. And of course, the New York Islanders got a loser point last night. That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. Guys, are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? We'll crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Pistachios are one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I recently tried the chili flavor in the red color bag. Love that, but my ultimate favorite is salt and pepper in the purple bag. But if you don't want to deal with the shells, check out the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Everybody's been calling me Pistachio Pillsy, and I wear that nickname with pride because pistachios, they're wonderful. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is our spot whenever we're looking to get in on the action. And March Madness is the perfect time to do that. FanDuel is giving you a chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet hits. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and even who's going to cut down the nets at the end of the day. I love to stay in the action with tournament games happening almost every day. There's always something exciting to bet on. It's easy and fast. The FanDuel app is so simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all season long. That's over at FanDuel. FanDuel, it's the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, Pillsy. So it is a 7 o'clock puck drop tonight in Buffalo. We will have the postcast for you right after the Senators take on the Buffalo Sabres. We got enormous news, though, out of the NHL this morning with a hashtag Sens abroad. Jacob Chychrun has signed an 8-year contract extension with the Washington Capitals worth $9 million per season. Pillsy, A, what do you think of the trade? And B, would you have given him that extension if he stayed in Ottawa last summer?
I mean, that's big. It's big money. And just what a random time for the Caps and Chychrun to come to a massive extension agreement here. You don't really see that big of a deal at this time of the season, right before playoffs, but the Caps are a team that they like their group and they want to lock him down. They can afford it. They've got lots of cap space, no pun intended, the Caps. Cap friendly, clearly coming in clutch for them. But I would not have given Jacob Chychrun this deal in Ottawa. That I can tell you for sure. Especially, I would not have made him a higher paid player than Jake Sanderson. We just talked about how much we love Sandy. And Chychrun just didn't make sense in Ottawa. I mean, I don't think I would have given Jacob Chychrun an extension of any sort in Ottawa. I kind of thought it would have been best to use him while he was at that cheap 4.6 and then either trade him or part ways after that, because we were hoping the Senators would have been in a playoff spot sooner than they are looking to be here. So huge news, but congrats to the Caps. I'm like, this is one of those where I'm not jealous about it. Like that, I'm fine with this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, hey, he's earned it with his play this year.
Yeah.
But how's that going to look in 4 or 5 years? Now the cap's going up, so it'll look more like an $8 million deal rather than $9 million, but that's a big money contract for a former Ottawa Senator.
And especially Ross, this is a guy that luckily he didn't have major injuries in Ottawa, but in his time in Arizona, he had a handful of major injuries, and I'd be a little nervous that those are going to catch up to him one day, especially with the minutes and the role he's going to play there.
He is out right now, but it was a freak injury. He got cut on the arm with a skate, so we hope he's back sooner rather than later. Wouldn't it be something for a storyline this playoffs if it is Ottawa versus Washington in the first round? One player who has joined Ottawa since Jacob Chychrun has left is Dylan Cozens, coming over in that trade from the Buffalo Sabres, and he's been everything and more with the Sens. Now, you look at the production, 3 goals, 4 assists in 7 games for the Sens. And not only that, Pillsy, what I love about Dylan Cozens is how he's using his body. He's got 31 hits in those 8 games for the Senators. He's just been everything that you could ask for. Not only in terms of his game, but I think almost as important is what he's done for his line mates. You already touched on David Perron. Well, Drake Batherson's also got 7 points in his last 8 games. Just feels like a perfect fit so far for Cozens in Ottawa.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Like when the trade happened, Ross, I think there was a lot of emotions and you're thinking, wow, this is a huge deal, dealing away Norris. But you look at the way Dylan Cozens plays, especially it seems like he's rejuvenated after leaving Buffalo. Have we heard or seen that story before? Yeah. And he's playing hockey with some passion again, and it's been such an awesome fit. I love this kid. He's one of my favorite Senators players to watch, Ross. Like when he's on the ice, I often find myself kind of ISO camming him, just glued to him, locked on to him, if you will. And there's so many little things that I like from his game, and the fact that he has the same amount of years on his deal as Josh Norris without the health concerns, and at what, $800K less a year. This has been a slam dunk of a trade. Obviously, Norris, great guy. We had him on the show. Obviously meant a lot to the team, and we wish him the best. But Dylan Cozens, he belongs in Ottawa.
Speaking of wanting the best for a player that leaves, what kind of reception do you think Dylan Cozens will get in Buffalo tonight?
I think the team will give him a good reception, probably a nice little video and things like that. But the fan base, I think the Boo Birds are going to be out for Cozens there, because I think it's one of those things where they saw how the passion and the play kind of declined for him being in Buffalo, and I think they're bitter that he wasn't able to keep that up there. And look, I don't blame anyone on either side. Like it's tough when you're a fan and a player kind of loses that spark on your team, and then they go somewhere else and they find it again and they're playing the way you wanted them and have seen them play for your team. But I don't blame Dylan Cozens either. It's tough when you're in a situation where in Buffalo there doesn't seem to be a light at the end of the tunnel, and we've seen guys leave there. Like Ryan O'Reilly in a season-ending press conference said he lost the will and the love to play hockey after.
And did he say that with the Conn Smythe in one arm and the Stanley Cup in the other?
No, he looked pretty happy there, Ross, if I'm remembering correctly. So these things happen, and I don't blame anyone on either side, honestly.
What I'm hoping happens is he gets a nice response during the tribute or the graphic, whatever they put up, whether it's a video or a graphic, and then boom, during the play. Obviously, they want their team to win tonight, so it makes sense. Well, yeah, true. I mean, they're looking at the tankathon spins like we were last year, but I do hope that he gets some sort. He didn't ask for a trade. He thought he was going to be a part of the solution in Buffalo, and I think that some Sabres fans are upset by the words that he said, where he says he's excited to be in a playoff race. I mean, obviously, it's better than packing his golf clubs up this time of year. So I do think that it is going to be a hostile environment for Dylan Cozens tonight. Hey, he's got his old man on the trip too. Said his old man cleared his schedule, was able to come down from Whitehorse and be there. Kind of, I wonder what his thoughts were. It's like, hey, we're going on the dad's trip. Where are we going? Right back to Buffalo, where you visited me over and over again over the course of Dylan Cozens, 5 years with the organization there. So we'll be watching for that storyline tonight. But all I can tell you, and Sabres fans, if you're watching this, no hard feelings. We're happy with what we have in Dylan Cozens so far with the Ottawa Senators. That's going to be a sick matchup to watch tonight. There's going to be a lot of fun matchups on the ice. Ottawa 0-2 so far this season against Buffalo. And what is it, 9-1, the total score? It was been 2 complete ass kickings for the Sabres against Ottawa. So the Sens owe them one, and we'll tell you why it's critically important in the standings right next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Hey, people in the GTA area, if you want to get to this game in Buffalo, why not get your tickets on Game Time? And it's basketball season too. The energy of the crowd, the sound of the sneakers on the hardwood, and maybe even see a celebrity sighting courtside. So if you want to catch a hockey or basketball game, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. Game Time's got a new feature, guys. It's called Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you're not wasting time searching through thousands of tickets that you don't even want. I've used the Game Time app a bunch of times, and there always is amazing deals that you can find. Check out Super Deals, giving you the best bang for your buck. They got your seat view before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee so you can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the Glebe Central Pub, 779 Bank Street. They will have the game on with volume, and on Sens game days like today, you can go to the Glebe Central Pub and get 10% off your order by letting them know that you listen to Locked On Senators. It's our neighborhood pub right in the heart of the Glebe. Go there for great food, awesome drinks. It's all Canadian owned, and our good friend Blair does a great job at the GCP. Pilsy, tell them about the shuttle, because Sue gets you there so fast to all the Sens home games.
The shuttle is an absolute, I was going to say blast and vibe, so I almost said blibe, Ross, but I don't think that's a word of the day. But
it's so much fun. It completely discombobulates your vocabulary.
Yeah, I wanted to say both. It's a blast being on the bus, and you can vibe with Sens fans. How about that? A round trip from the pub to the rink, from the rink back to the pub, only $17. In this economy, you can't beat that.
And it goes an hour and 15 minutes before the game, gets you there with plenty of time. Usually you get there right before warm up, and then you get right back on the bus in the same spot you get off 15 minutes after the final buzzer. So no beating the traffic to get to the bus. But then you get on the bus lane, you fly back to the GCP where they got live music every Saturday night. The bus is running Saturday against Columbus. Get your tickets. Let's sell out all these buses. Fire us up and just click Locked On Senator sent you when you get your bus tickets at GlebeCentralPub.com. All the remaining regular season dates are available, so book your tickets now at the Glebe Central Pub website. The Glebe Central Pub, 779 Bank Street. The vibes are free at the GCP. All right, Pillsy, enormous game for the Ottawa Senators tonight. After a big win where they held on for dear life at the end against the Devils, the 3-game road trip continues tonight. It'll be in Buffalo and then Thursday in Detroit. Love the Father's Trip content that the Senators have been posting. They were all getting on the plane together yesterday. They had photo day beforehand. It's a good atmosphere, I believe, around the Ottawa Senators right now, and we'll see if they can continue that into tonight's matchup. You look at the standings, Ottawa still the first wildcard team, 4 points up on Montreal, 5 points up on the New York Islanders and New York Rangers, and 6 points up on the Columbus Blue Jackets. I may as well add the Red Wings to the mix because it's the next opponent. The Red Wings' big win last night, 5-1 over Utah. They scored 5 goals on 14 shots. They've got 72 points, so they are 7 points back of the Ottawa Senators. All that to say, it's a big night on the out-of-town scoreboard as well. We're looking at 10 games in the National Hockey League, and here is your Senators cheering guide. The red-hot St. Louis Blues, the number 1 team since Four Nations, they have put themselves into the driver's seat of the Western Conference wildcard. They're hosting the Montreal Canadiens tonight, Pillsy, a huge game in the wildcard race.
Yeah, put some respect on the St. Louis Blues name, Ross. We love to see them coming in hot, and we love to see them humble the Montreal Canadiens. So big-time Blues fans here.
We certainly are. We're also going to be rooting hard for the Colorado Avalanche. That's an easy team to cheer for when they're not playing Ottawa. They're home now, taking on the Detroit Red Wings. Red Wings on the second half of a back-to-back. The Avalanche are minus 300 favorites in this game.
Sheesh. Wow.
And lastly, the LA Kings will be on the Senators cheering guide tonight. They are hosting the New York Rangers, and Pillsy, the LA Kings are unbeatable at home. They have a 25-3-4 record at home. They've also won 3 straight games.
I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I feel good about how that matchup could go then, Ross.
It's a very, I would say, favorable out-of-town scoreboard in terms of the teams that Ottawa has chasing them playing tonight are playing against 3 of the hottest and best teams in the National Hockey League.
And all on the road.
and all on the road. So we're going for the home cooking tonight. The Senators out of town cheering guide will feature the St. Louis Blues over the Montreal Canadiens, the Colorado Avalanche over the Detroit Red Wings, and the LA Kings over the New York Rangers. But of course, our focus will be in Buffalo, where the Senators are minus 155 favorites on FanDuel at a 7 o'clock puck drop. Pilsy, your thoughts and predictions maybe for tonight's game?
Thoughts is let's stop the Sabres in their tracks here. You mentioned they had a couple big upset wins up against some big Western Conference teams. Let's have Dylan Cozens have a big night. I'm going to be heading to FanDuel and putting a couple shekels on some Cozens prop bets, that's for sure. And I don't want to see them just sneak out a win here, Ross, the Sens. Let's get a big point night. Let's have the puck line hit, win by more than 2 goals or more than 1 goal, I should say. Like, let's get things going. Kick off the dad's trip the right way.
That's what I'm thinking too. The Senators haven't really had a big road win since the victory on January 11th, where they beat the Pittsburgh Penguins 5-0 in that game. Like, they've gotten a few good road wins. The Nashville one comes to mind where they won 5-2, but this would be a good statement game. I know it's kind of wild to say that against a team that's last place in the East, but how the season series has gone head to head. They play next Tuesday in Ottawa as well. These are games where we keep saying Ottawa has the easiest strength of schedule. These 2 games are a big reason why you cannot let them slip away.
Yeah, exactly. And Ross, my daily tradition of looking at moneypuck.com, the playoff percentages, the Ottawa Senators still are at 94.8%. The Habs, 49%. The who's next? The New York Rangers, 24.2. The Islanders, 23.8. Columbus, 9.4. And Red Wings, 7.1. So things are still looking good for the Ottawa Senators.
Pillsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Yes, final thoughts for me is, Ross, I was looking at the YouTube comments of yesterday's episode. Usually check it every day, see what the feedback is from people, good or bad. And I started seeing a trend where people were like, oh, I agree with Ross and disagree with Pillsy. You got to rest guys against the Habs. And I saw that and I was like, oh, that's weird. I don't remember disagreeing with that. Okay, maybe that one person just heard it wrong. And then another one. And it was like 4 or 5 comments being like, Pillsy needs to calm down about hating the Habs. We got to rest guys if. Yeah, I'm getting to it. If they clinch a playoff spot, and you rest the guys that maybe are having maintenance issues and maybe just need a break there. That was your argument. And I understood that argument and I got it. And I went back and listened to it because I was like, I don't remember disagreeing with this. And I even texted you and you're like, yeah, I don't remember you saying you were against that either. So I was like, what the heck's going on here? Why is everyone saying that I disagreed with that? I'm the rest guy. I'm the guy that's calling for players to get rest. And now people are saying that I was against that and that they disagree with my take there. So I had to go back and I watched it and I was like, yeah, I don't remember saying that. And I didn't check the tape. And I was a bit of a keyboard warrior, Ross, replying to people, but mostly just because I wanted to set the record straight. But after watching it, I did understand why people thought that might have been my take, because based on my reaction, I was reacting that way because I just had this big rant about, all right, this is the biggest week of the season, twice against Columbus, and then you've got a home game against the Habs, hopefully to stop them winning the season series sweep. You got to have a big game here. This is where the Sens are going to decide how the playoffs go or if they can control their own destiny. And your response was, hey, let's talk about resting guys if they clinch. So that's where I was just like, wait, what? I thought of the perfect analogy, Ross, and this is kind of timely. We've been talking about bachelor chips recently. So the way that kind of played out in my mind is I was going to you. I was like, Ross, I got a sick bachelor trip planned. It's going to be a long weekend. First night, we're going to go have a steak dinner. That's going to be sweet. Then Saturday night, we're going to a concert. Sunday night, we've got a big football game. It's going to be an epic weekend. And your response was, well, if we book a flight early Monday morning, I'm going to want to get to bed early Sunday night. And I was like, well, yeah, that's, you're right, Ross. Like, that is smart, but come on, but meet me where I'm at with the vibes. Let's pump this up here. So I think that's where people got confused about my reaction, because I was like, that's where we're talking about this, resting guys, when I was hyping up how big these games are. So I just wanted to clear the air here a little and let people know that if I don't want to get ahead of myself here, if the Ottawa Senators find themselves in a spot where they've clinched a playoff spot early, then yes, absolutely, it is smart and responsible to take a look at resting players that have ailments, that are hurt, that maybe could use a bit of a break. That I am all for that. I just wanted to make that very clear to everyone about how that situation ended up.
I would love to see the YouTube comments flooded with "I understand, Pillsy" today on our channel, where you can like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. That's the best way to reach us, in the feedback and the comments below on YouTube. We try to get back to each and every one of them. Final thoughts from me. Mads Sogaard will be a full participant in practice today. Dave Bell was on the TSN morning show, TSN 1200, and yeah, it's a long time coming. It did not look good when he left the ice there, so great to see that Mads Sogaard is back at full practice. We know Levi Marilyn has been carrying the mail down there with Malcolm Subban, so will the Great Dane get back in action and get back to his game? That's going to be a storyline to follow with the Belleville Senators. If you want to learn more about the Belleville Sens, check out tomorrow's episode of Locked On Senators. We're going to have David Foote on the show. We're also going to take a look around the Senators prospect world, because regular seasons are over for all of them pretty much. Where are Gabriel Eliasson, Carter Yakimchuk playing in the playoffs? And the NCAA tournament starts on Thursday, and the Sens have some late round picks that will be plying their trade. So we'll look around the world of Sens prospects. We had Angus Crookshank on yesterday. Always an amazing interview with him. The Nuggets on Stephen Halliday rocking the Ohio State gear. All-time clip for Angus Crookshank, who we're rooting for heavy down there in Belleville. Big game today for the Ottawa Senators. We'll see it tonight in the postcast. For today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.